Welcome back to the deep dive where we like to explore, those topics, those dense topics you've been meaning to explore and break them down into those bite-sized pieces of knowledge.
Yeah.
And today we're diving deep into the fascinating world of Carl Jung's shadow.
Okay.
And we're going to be using this popular YouTube video as our guide.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carl Jung was a renowned psychologist, and he kind of delved into these mysteries of the human mind
Right.
and spirit. And his concept of the shadow is particularly intriguing
Okay.
because it challenges us to kind of look at these hidden,
Yeah.
often uncomfortable
Yeah.
aspects of ourselves.
It's not about turning into like some spooky Halloween character or anything. It's
Right.
about, it's about understanding that we all have these hidden parts of ourselves.
Yeah,
Shaped by our experiences, our families,
exactly.
and the society that we live in.
Shaped by so many things.
And Jung believed that ignoring these hidden aspects could actually hold us back in life.
Yeah, I think if we're constantly blaming others for our problem or feeling stuck or experiencing these conflicts that just seem to keep repeating themselves,
Yeah.
it might be a sign that our shadow is trying to get our attention.
Okay, I'm already starting to see how this is relevant to everyone.
Yeah.
But how do we even know
Yeah.
what's lurking in our shadow?
Well, one of the most common ways our shadow kind of shows up is through these emotional triggers.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, you have a very strong negative reaction to someone who is super confident.
Right.
Jung would say that that reaction might be a clue that you've suppressed your own desire for confidence.
So it's not that I dislike confidence itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that maybe I've pushed that part of myself down.
Exactly.
And seeing it in someone else triggers that uncomfortable feeling.
Exactly. And, these triggers aren't always negative.
Okay.
We might find ourselves intensely drawn to someone
Right.
who embodies qualities that we also possess. But we've kind of hidden away, and these positive reactions can actually point us
Okay.
towards our hidden strengths.
So instead of being annoyed by these strong reactions, we can actually use them as a starting point
Yeah.
for self-discovery.
For sure. For sure.
That's pretty amazing.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Jung believed that our shadow is not just personal, but it's also collective.
Collective shadow. What does that mean?
It refers to this shared negativity and darkness that exists within a society, like prejudice, violence, injustice.
Right.
These are the things that we as a collective often try to ignore or deny.
So our personal shadows
Yeah.
are somehow connected to these larger societal issues.
Precisely, Jung argued that the work that we do to confront our own personal biases and fears can actually help us to address the collective shadow as well.
It's a powerful thought that if each of us can take responsibility for our own shadow, we might actually be contributing to a more just and compassionate world.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we are all interconnected.
Yeah.
And that the work we do on ourselves can ripple outward and create positive change in the world around us.
This is starting to feel like more than just psychology. This is almost like a social responsibility to understand this concept.
It's about recognizing that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves, and that our individual actions can have a profound impact.
Okay, I'm completely hooked.
Good.
But how do we actually start doing this shadow work?
Right.
It still sounds a bit abstract to me.
Well, there are many different approaches, but one of the simplest and most effective is journaling.
Journaling. I mean, I scribble down my thoughts sometimes, but how can that help with something as deep as the shadow?
Think of it as creating a safe space where you can explore those uncensored thoughts and feelings that you might not feel comfortable sharing with anyone else.
Okay.
And as you write, you might start to notice recurring themes or patterns that offer insights into your shadow.
So it's not about perfect grammar or writing a bestseller. It's about being honest with yourself on paper.
Exactly. And remember, this is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
Be patient with yourself and don't be afraid to delve into those uncomfortable emotions that arise.
This is already making me think about things I've been avoiding. But what about those really dark parts of our shadow? The ones that make us feel ashamed or guilty?
Those are often the parts that need our attention the most.
Okay.
Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate those parts of ourselves. It's about understanding and integrating them.
So it's not about becoming perfect, but about becoming whole.
Exactly.
Accepting all parts of ourselves.
Exactly. And that acceptance can be incredibly freeing because it allows us to stop hiding from ourselves and step into our true authenticity.
That's a powerful idea. But before we go too deep down the rabbit hole,
Sure.
I think we need to pause for a moment
Oh.
and give our listeners a chance to process all of this. Okay, so we've established that we all have this shadow side, and facing it can be like a key to personal growth
Mm-hmm.
and even societal change.
Yeah.
But I'm still wondering about the practicalities of it.
Yeah.
What does this shadow work actually look like in everyday life?
Well, it's more about awareness than any specific action.
Okay.
So think about those moments where
Right.
you react disproportionately to something.
Okay.
Maybe you get overly angry
Yeah.
when someone cuts you off in traffic, or you judge a coworker harshly for a small mistake.
So instead of just reacting, we should pause and ask ourselves, like, why am I feeling this so strongly?
Exactly.
What is this reaction telling me about myself?
Those intense reactions are often our shadow kind of poking through.
Okay.
And if we can pause and examine them,
Yeah.
we might discover a hidden insecurity or a fear of being overlooked or a suppressed desire
Wow.
that's being triggered.
That makes a lot of sense. Those moments are actually opportunities to learn something valuable about ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, as we said before, our shadow isn't always negative.
Right.
Sometimes those intense reactions can be positive.
Okay.
Maybe you find yourself deeply moved by someone's artistic expression, or you feel an unexpected surge of admiration for someone's courage.
So if we're drawn to certain qualities in others, it might be a sign that we possess those qualities too,
Mhm.
but haven't fully embraced them in ourselves.
That's a powerful insight.
Yeah.
Those positive reactions can be like signposts pointing us
Good.
toward our own untapped potential.
This is making me think about all the books and movies I've loved over the years.
Yeah,
Could those stories also be reflections of my shadow?
absolutely. Jung believed that myths and fairy tales, and even modern stories, can act as mirrors to our psyche.
Wow.
So think about classic tales of heroes facing their inner demons or characters struggling with these hidden desires.
So it's not just about enjoying the story. It's about seeing how it resonates with us.
Exactly.
What it reveals about
Yeah.
our own internal struggles and
Yeah.
aspirations.
And sometimes exploring those stories
Yeah.
from different perspectives
Right.
can offer even deeper insights.
Okay.
So what if we try to understand the villain's motivations
Huh.
or empathize with the character
Right.
who makes the wrong choices?
That's an interesting idea. It's like we're using the story as a tool
Yeah.
to explore those complexities of human nature,
Mm-hmm.
both the light and the shadow.
Exactly. And by engaging with those stories
Yeah.
in a more conscious way, we might even gain a deeper understanding of our own shadow
Right.
and its role in our lives.
This is starting to feel less like psychology and more like a treasure hunt.
Right?
We're looking for clues in our emotions, our reactions, and even the stories we love.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Shadow work is about uncovering
Right.
those hidden parts of ourselves.
And integrating them into a more whole and authentic self.
Okay, so we've talked about journaling
Right.
and using stories as mirrors.
Yeah.
Are there any other tools or practices that can help us on this journey?
One practice that's particularly helpful for shadow work
Okay.
is mindfulness meditation.
Mindfulness, I thought that was about relaxing and clearing your mind.
Right.
How does that connect to our shadow?
Well, while mindfulness can definitely be relaxing,
Okay.
it's also about cultivating awareness
Okay.
of our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without judgment.
Right.
And this can be incredibly valuable when dealing with the shadow
Okay.
because it allows us to observe those difficult emotions
Yeah.
without getting swept away by them.
So instead of trying to suppress or ignore those feelings of shame, guilt, or anger, we learn to simply acknowledge them.
Exactly.
Let them pass.
Exactly. Mindfulness helps us create a space
Huh.
between ourselves and our emotions so we're not so easily controlled by them.
Right. This can be a powerful tool for navigating the challenges of shadow work.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
It's like we're building a muscle of awareness
Hmm.
that allows us to face those difficult parts of ourselves without getting overwhelmed.
And as we develop that mindfulness muscle, we can start to respond to those shadow triggers
Yeah.
in a more conscious and skillful way.
This is all incredibly insightful, but I'm curious, what does life actually look like
Yeah.
after significant shadow work has been done?
Right.
What changes might we see in ourselves and our relationships?
Well, it's important to remember that shadow work is a lifelong journey,
Okay.
not a destination. We're never truly done with it.
So it's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment.
Right.
It's about continuously growing and evolving.
Exactly. And as we do this work, we might notice that we become more emotionally resilient,
No.
meaning we can handle difficult situations with more calmness and grace.
Right.
We might find that we're less reactive
Uh-huh.
and more able to regulate our emotions.
That sounds incredibly freeing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who wouldn't want to navigate life's challenges with more composure and less stress?
It's a truly transformative shift.
Wow.
And our relationships often deepen as well.
Okay.
We're able to communicate our needs and boundaries,
Uh-huh.
more honestly fostering more authentic connections with others.
So shadow work doesn't just benefit us individually, it also has like a positive ripple effect
Absolutely.
on our relationship.
And perhaps most importantly, people who've done significant shadow work
Yeah.
often report this profound sense of freedom.
Okay.
They're liberated from those limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging patterns
Wow.
that were holding them back.
So they're finally able to be their true selves without feeling the need to hide or pretend.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And that authenticity often shines through in everything they do,
Wow.
inspiring others to embark on their own journeys of self-discovery.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. I feel like I'm seeing myself in the world around me in a whole new light.
That's great.
But before we wrap up this deep dive
Sure.
into Carl Jung's shadow, I want to make sure we leave our listeners with some practical advice.
Of course, for anyone who's feeling inspired to explore their own shadow,
Yeah.
I would say start with small steps.
Okay.
Don't feel like you need to dive into the deepest, darkest corners of your psyche right away.
Uh-huh.
Begin by noticing those everyday moments
Okay.
when you have a strong emotional reaction to something or someone.
So pay attention to those triggers and see what they reveal about our hidden selves.
Exactly. And then I would suggest incorporating a regular journaling practice into your routine.
Okay.
Even just 10-15 minutes a day of free writing can make a huge difference.
Find a quiet space, grab a pen and paper, and let those thoughts and feelings flow without censorship.
Precisely.
Okay.
And remember to approach yourself with compassion and curiosity.
Right.
Shadow work is not about judging yourself or trying to eliminate those unwanted parts. It's about understanding them, integrating them,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately harnessing their power for growth and transformation.
This has been an amazing deep dive. What a journey into the world of Carl Jung's shadow.
It has been. Yeah.
It's clear that this concept, while maybe a bit intimidating at first,
Right.
is actually a path towards greater self-awareness, stronger relationships, and a more fulfilling life.
And remember, embracing our shadow isn't just about personal growth. It's also about contributing to a more just and compassionate world.
You know, as we wrap up our deep dive into Carl Jung's shadow, there's one idea that keeps coming back to me. It's this idea of wholeness.
Right.
It's not about being perfect or pretending we don't have those, like, messy hidden parts.
Yeah, that's the heart of it. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing we have both light and shadow within us.
Yeah.
And integrating those shadow elements is what leads to a more complete sense of self.
So it's not about getting rid of the shadow, but about learning to live with it, understand it, and maybe even appreciate it.
Exactly. Think of it like a dance. We're learning to move with both the light and the shadow, embracing all those complexities
Right.
that make us who we are.
And it sounds like that dance is like a lifelong one.
Absolutely.
And we're always evolving, always discovering new layers of ourselves.
Shadow work is a journey of continuous growth.
Yeah.
As we become more aware of our shadow,
Right.
we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves
Yeah.
and the world around us.
It's almost like those healing parts, the ones we often try to ignore,
Right.
hold the key to our greatest potential.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
By embracing our shadow,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to a more authentic and fulfilling life.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I'm walking away with a whole new perspective
Good.
on myself and human nature in general. But
Yeah.
before we say goodbye,
Sure.
I want to make sure our listeners know where to go from here. If someone wants to start exploring their own shadow, what would you recommend?
Start with curiosity.
Okay.
Instead of judging yourself for those shadow impulses, get curious about them.
Uh-huh.
Ask yourself, what is this part of me trying to tell me?
Right.
What need is it trying to fulfill?
So instead of pushing those feelings away, we lean into them, explore them with this sense of openness
Exactly.
and compassion.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone.
Right?
There are countless resources available, books, therapists, workshops to support you on this journey.
And for our listeners who want to delve deeper into Carl Jung's work,
Yes.
we highly recommend checking out www.ultimatemasters.org coaching.
Absolutely.
They have a wealth of information on shadow work and other Jungian concepts.
It's a fantastic resource for anyone wanting to explore these ideas further.
Well, on that note, it's time to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive.
Okay.
We want to thank you, our amazing listeners,
Yes.
for joining us on this exploration of Carl Jung's shadow. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and maybe even a little bit challenging.
Remember, the shadow is not something to be feared.
Right.
It's a part of us all. And by embracing it, we can unlock our true potential and create a more authentic and fulfilling life. Be sure to check back daily for new episodes of The Deep Dive, where we'll continue to explore fascinating topics and delve into the mysteries of the human experience. Until next time, keep diving deeper.